Hey guys, Stack back at here with another video. The goal of this video is just to go through the main watch list for the mid prices here. There's a fair bit of options. We're a bit spoilt for choices, and if there's anything we can learn from this season last year, just you gotta get those right. There was a couple burns, there was a couple good ones, and yeah, the season was really set apart by depending on who you picked for your mid prices. So beginning off with, this is for beginners who do not know what mid prices are. If you're starting your first season, a mid pricer is someone who's at a discounted price compared to what we believe the average should or could be. Now, if anyone who played Supercoach season 2022, we had a couple of these examples. A mid pricer who was affected from injury, coming back after a couple months break or year break, etc. Jared Witz. Yeah, I think I actually owned Jared Witz last year, the season 2022, and he gave me quite a he gave me quite the boost. 380k, and he peaked at 618. And then another one I also picked up during the year was Darcy Cameron, when he got that I think it was round six where he finally got the ruck roll, and oh my god, did he take off! He got to a peak of 540k, and these are just like two good examples of just mid-price ruckman, or we had Darcy Cameron the forward line just kicking off. And for team changes, players that swap teams to get better opportunity. Last year, a good one was Will Brody, who started at 224k and peaked at 573. Now, personally, I didn't start him, and also the other example is George Hewitt, who I also didn't start, and yeah, I was trying to play catch up the whole year. Will Brody and George Hewitt just couldn't catch up to him. So I guess what I've reflected on is when choosing your mid prices, you gotta make wise choices. For my mid prices, I started Jared Witz, got Darcy Cameron late in the year, but my other two was Tristan Zeri and Mitch McGovern. I took three gambles: Witz, McGovern, and Zeri, and guess what? This just blew up in my. Witz went well. Zeri was average, and McGovern shat in my face, while people who owned Will Brody were just gapping me in every way possible. So, I guess a good thing is I might do a list for premium, and I might do a list for rookies, depending on how this video goes. But I think it's essential when having your gambles on the mid prices, you choose wisely, because mid prices can make or break, except if you go for a few safe picks, which I'll explain a bit later. So we've got injury, we got role change, team change, and now we got the last one, age progression or a breakout year. This is just particularly a player who is young. I know Tim English is there, but Ruckman take a bit longer to develop, and they just break out through age. We've had a couple. Don't know who's the most recent example. I remember when Josh Simkin burst out of the gates. No one thought his little 300k price was reasonable, and he just came out and he went like I think got out the 520. I think it was about 2-3 seasons ago, and yeah, it's always going to happen. There's always going to be one person that hits their stride at the right young age, and yeah, it's all about just finding the right one. So starting off with the first mid pricer for season 2023. Remember, this is just a watch list. We don't know what's going to happen. There's still a whole January and February of training for these guys, but we just need to keep our eyes onto the prizes here and just see who the best mid prices are. Starting off with the first one on the watch list, we have Elliot Yo. At the age of 29, the reason he was a mid-price was through injury. We can see in his best years of 2018 and 2019, he pulled averages of 107.6 and 107.9. And in both of those seasons, he managed to play 21 and 22 games, while also playing a very Supercoach friendly role of halfback in midfield. However, in the last two seasons, he has only played a combined 22 games with regular soft tissue injuries. My personal thing about Elliot Yo, I will watch him. He is a gun on that halfback midfield line, and I'd really like him in my team. But all signs would have to point that he's had a flawless January and February. Because if not, it's going to be really hard to start considering his last two seasons. 330k price tag. I should have even added. He's not that cheap for a mid price. It's a bit on the higher end, and it's a obviously all these mid prices are gamble, but hey, it's a gamble that could pay off. But if he's definitely one there, but he needs a flawless January and February, and even like two back-to-back JLT games where he pulls up. with decent game time for me to even consider it. But yeah, if he's done all those, ticked all those boxes, I don't see no reason not to get him. He's a proven scorer and he could be a ripper. Next one, Hunter Clark. Bit more on the unproven side. At the age of 23, he has the potential as a mid-pricer. He's come back from injury and also to breakout. He has shown his potential for a more consistent midfield role, and he is at into the age that's good for midfielders. And I don't think he played much. Or he obviously had the injury in season 22, but I remember in season 2021 round one, he had that score of 130 against GWS, and then he started playing this hybrid defense role, and he was mucked around with a lot. So Lenny Hayes is obviously giving him the raps for midfield as a midfield coach, and Ross Lyon is different. As you can see in his cons, he's been injury affected the last 2 seasons. He's decided to trade to North Melbourne with frustrations with the club. You know, will Ross Lyon give him what he wants? He maybe wants a bit more of responsibility, a bit more midfield role, and yeah, bit more of a gamble as well because he has had so little sample size. Unlike Elliot Yeo, who we know's done those 2 seasons of 107 plus, he's a bit more on the unproven side. But yeah, that's why he gets the breakout tick. So as a mid price, if you're looking for if he does look like he's going to get that midfield role and he is in Ross Lyon's best 22, I don't see no reason not to get him. But yeah, wait and see over the preseason. Next one, Jack Bowes. The age of 24, his reason for his good price tag was injury. And the optimistic side about him is he's had his team change. He's at Geelong now. Obviously, he was pushed out from Gold Coast. Not even probably because he was a bad player, but just because of the salary, they just overpaid a bit of their players, which is a bit unfortunate. He has been a proven scorer in that friendly Supercoach halfback role, and he can develop into a midfield. Geelong have been optimistic in making him a midfielder, but I don't see how that rolls, as I'll explain. And then he's still cheap. He's cheap. He's in the 200s, and he is still young, heading into a prime age. What else? Now, as you guys probably know, explained earlier, I am a Geelong Cat supporter. So my question is, and I don't know how he makes it into our best 22. I think he is as a utility because he can do mid defense mid. He kind of gives me that vibe. He'll either be in and out when Mitch Duncan, Zach Tui, or Dangerfield need a rest, or he's just potentially a 23rd player and he will be our sub for most games. And he hasn't played a full season yet just due to unlucky injuries. So yeah, on Jack Bowes, even though being a Cat supporter, I like the previous 2 options a bit more than him. If I don't know if Cats are going to hold his word of that more prominent role, but hey, wait and see. But I think I prefer the previous 2 to Jack Bowes, and this has come from a Cat supporter. Now, next we have Connor McKenna. This is someone I will be starting in my side unless something tells me not to, but he's got, as you can see, a lot more green than blue. So he's aged 26, and the reason for his cheap price was he obviously changed teams, so now he's got more opportunity, and he was on personal leave for a while over the whole COVID conundrum and wanted to go back home, which is fair enough on his end. Now he plays in a very Supercoach friendly role on that half back, and he's in the prime age for it. He's going to have that experience and back. It was very good for Essendon, and he has shown, He has shown history, good scorer. And Brisbane, I don't know if any Brisbane supporters will tell me what likewise, but from what I've seen, I think they need that dash to help Dean Coleman. He will, He will provide a much needed bit of speed off the back there, and him and Coleman, they could be exactly what Brisbane need to take him to that next step. Hopefully, a top 4. Maybe even get him to the granny, but yeah, you have to wait and see. It's way too early. Yeah, he did have a good 2019 season. Like I said, the only con is if he has some risk for a spot, like against Darcy Wilmot. But I don't know if any of Answorth or Starcevich's a different player, but Answorth, I know Rich and Zorko are in their own little roles. So yeah, he doesn't have much competition. I don't know, Brisbane supporter could give me more info, but for that price tag, 167k, he's cheap. It's not much risk. I think if he's not, he'll be at least in 90% of teams this year. Now, here's some honourable mentions. Ed Richards, he finished off the season really well. Obviously, with that price tag, 460k, he's more like a discount and premium, but I thought I'd leave him here as an honourable mention. Finished off the season really well. Plays on the beverage, though. You'll need a preseason to see, or just a JLTs and matches to see if he has that halfback role. If he has that halfback role, you could probably even to swap out a premium in. If he's got that, okay, let's just lock it in. His intercept marking, his movement off the half back, it was legendary for that back half of the season. If he's got that halfback role locked in, he's got no threat from Caleb Daniel Crozier. I might snag him up along with one of the previous two. And then we've also got Zach Williams. Yeah, the Adamy. He's been everyone's wanted him every single season. He's been 500k and ever, and people started him. But I think we're all at the point now. He's just been a bit of a under injury cloud. I hope for the man. He's a great player. I hope he can get back on the park. So this is why he's here. Because if he does, he's a good scorer. He's really super coach. It's a super coach friendly role. He does take on the game. So if he is fit, then yeah. But I think we've been burnt too many times. So he just sits in the honourable mention. Caleb Marchbank, similar to him, does have an intercepted role, but has just been stiff with injury. Could treat with caution, but he is cheap enough to probably take a gamble. And lastly, Tom Cole did play in West Coast Eagles Premiership side and has shown some seasons of 22 games. Although the only reason he didn't get his own own slide was just because he's never had that score and power yet. He's never really. I think his best average was 62, and that was the season when he did play 22. So it's not too much excitement to go off, but he gets it there if he just needs someone. Like, it's almost like a rookie. He'll play all 22. I think he fits Eagles outfit, but it depends on his score and power. Now, onto the midfielders. We got, as an excited one for a Cat fan, we have Max Holmes, age 20. And reason is, although he did have that injury the week before the granny, and he did have an ankle injury round 17 against Port, it still was like a little 1 week niggles, and he really wanted, even that little after that little calf niggle, he was like, I really, really want to get back on the field, and he just very stiffly pulled up, and I think that just adds more fury to him. Now, at 360k in the midfield, there's some better options coming up, but if you're looking for someone, bit of a potter, bit of a breakout, we've got some pros about him. As a Danger has said, he could become the best player in the comp. Oh my god, is that an optimistic comment? There's a lot of good players out there. You've got Walsh, you got Ashcroft around his age. I mean, Ashcroft hasn't played yet, but you've heard the things about him. There's Sam Darcy, Ben King, Max King, Jacob Wiederin, like, even just cut some on the old end. You got Neil Patrick Cripps. Like, what a thing to say. I don't, as a Cats fan, I think it's a bit over bullish. I think it's a bit overconfident. I think it's crazy. But you got to take what is it? Words to heart. In the Geelong group, he's obviously respected. It's because there's also been whispers about him that he might get that midfield role. You've got Tanner Bruin, and who was that one we got in? Tanner Bruin. Oh, and Jai Clark as the future. Those Bruns, those distributors. But then who replaces the X factor of Danger? Who has that speed out of the contest? Who's just got those legs that can run all day but also produce like that quick little burst? And I almost think it's ironic that it's Dangerfield to say that, because Max Holmes kind of fits that same profile as Danger. And if he is as highly respected as Danger says, to get that, to take that next step, to be the best player in the comp, quote unquote, and has whispers of a midfield role, I mean, hey, there's only excitement there. And one thing you also know about the Cats is, we've had players like Jordan Clark, Charlie Constable, and they play like 2-3 games. I mean, Chris Scott's dropped them. We've got another ones who've played 4-5, dropped, 6-7, dropped. Then you got Max Holmes here, and I remember when he debuted, I was like, oh, he's going to get 2-3 games, he got dropped. No, he just kept going and going and going until the end of season 2020, or 2021. And then season 22 came and it's like, oh, I mean, I hope he gets in. He hasn't really shown much. I think he played nearly all the season except for that little ankle injury, and especially in those last couple of rounds, he finished off so strong with a 3 round average in 97, and that was just on the wing roll. So a pick that's very optimistic and probably shouldn't be popular because he is 360k, and it's just basically flipping a not even flipping a coin. It's a huge gamble, but if you want a breakout option in the midfield that's 360k, I think you don't look no further than this guy. Like I said, the one thing is he's unproven and injured, but yeah, I love him the bits, and I think he can be. not the best player in the comp, but he could get to a very high level and A tier midfielder in the near future. Jacob Hopper, age 25, injury and team change. He's this play. It would be crazy not to see him in 80% of team. No, in sorry, 95% of teams. He's averaged 90 plus from 2019 to 2021 in a midfielder role where he had the fight against Tim Taranto, Canelio, Josh Kelly, Ward. He's had to go the hard way getting that midfield role. Now he's at punt road and he's got himself that midfield role, and he's in the prime age for it as well. 25. It's just his ripe years for a midfielder. He's got his role. He will be just a safe pick, and he'll like I said, he'll be in the majority of Supercoach teams. He won't even if he fails. He's in 90% of teams. What could go wrong? And yeah, obviously his injury, his con was that he has come back from a knee injury, which is like a little bit on the very very slight con side. There has to be a con, but yeah, optimistic. I think everyone should lock him in, even if he fails. 95% of the comp will have him, and yeah, you won't really get gapped from losing him. Just lock him in, start him. 332k. You can take some gambles on some other ones as well, but he's one of the ones you have to have this year, unless don't jinx. I don't want to jinx it because of the preseason, but yeah, unless. Let's hope though. Is a gun superstar, should be good in that new Tigers outfit. Dom Sheed, age 27, injury. I think it was about 2-3 years ago. This guy was also a mid-pricer. Don't know what it was. I think he was like 300 grand. I think it was 2019, and then I was thinking, oh, that's rubbish. I'm not gonna start him. He's old. He at West Coast. Then I think he went on the average 90 something for the season, and then I actually think it was 2019. Yeah, that's right. When he started 300 grand, and it was, oops, sorry. Let's go back. Yeah, he started 300 grand, and yeah, he went on the average 95. So he has done it. He has come from the mid pricer and just pushed it out. He is in a super coach friendly role. He has played a full season before, and he is the prime age for a midfielder. Someone that's tough because I do like to look at Max Holmes and Jacob Hopper and Dom Sheed, but you know, some really good picks here. And he did only get to play one game last season. I think he had that ankle injury earlier in the year, and then he was expected to come back, and then played against Geelong, and then he done something else again, and yeah, he only got to play one game this year. And the thing about he's been inconsistent with Supercoach scoring. He's had games where he's lit up the season, and he's had some where he's just had a stinker, and he's, you know, what's much else to say about him? I think he's still safe. He could easily reach 500 grand, but if you look for a more risky game, I think he's a safe gamble. But if you want more risky, there are better options coming up. We have some of the honourable mentions that didn't deserve their own slide, but hey, there could be something this season. We've got Lockie Whitfield. With the absence of Taranto and Hopper, could he get a little bit more time in the guts? Possibly not. And he didn't really show. It was a disappointing season from him. If he gets a full preseason, he can probably turn it around, get on his halfback role and get on it. But I don't know what the new coach has for him. He could play that half forward role again. We don't know, but we'll wait and see. We can't discount Lockie Whitfield. He's been good to us for the last couple of years in Supercoach. He's a Supercoach. He's a man-made Supercoach point-making machine. Leave him in as an honourable mention and hope for the best for the man. Warple, once again, he was a mid-price in the forward line once, and he got up to about 550 or something. So superstar, legendary player. Oh, sorry, let me take that back. Oh, not legendary, but for the Supercoach players that year, he was legendary in our hearts. He saved a lot of teams. He did make a lot of cash, and he did make a good forward. But now he's got that midfielder role, only mid. You'd have to hope he gets into Sam Mitchell's outfit, and he does pull back in the midfield. He does pull that reliability back for his midfield. He's still young. He's only like 23. He can put more oomph into it, but for me, not much. He's had his chances a couple of times, and I think he's on the down. But the one good thing is he doesn't have much competition at the moment with the absence of Mitchell and Amira. So has another shot this year, and yeah, could go off, but I'd have to really see something in the preseason. Will Phillips, another preseason watch, 158k. You almost think of him as a rookie at that price tag, but as he has played games before, we have it technically is a mid price. He's just purely fallen victim to a bit of not just injury, but also just moving magnets and poor form. So he's to pick three. He's still young. He can still get into it. And yeah, if he does show some signs in season that he is in the Arden Street best favour, he is Alistair Clarkson's go to young man on the rise. Don't see any reason not having him. Next, starting off with the ruck line, Darcy. For the ruck line, 465k doesn't really sound like a mid-pricer, but comparing our other options, 500k plus, you want to look for some value in the ruck line, especially with it being such a weak ruck this year. You always locked Gaundy, and this year you don't. If you're locking Gaundy, you're literally just going to be watching one Melbourne game. You don't have to watch Collingwood or Melbourne every single week. You literally just rock up, watch a Melbourne game, and that's your rucks done. And you could just easily see one of these players is the average getting pushed down because they have to share. So this year, I guess it's a hunt for value. First off, Darcy Cameron. His role change happened earlier in the season and led to the departure of Grundy, nonetheless. What a dangerous move, obviously overpaid in his contract, but hey, he's got the role now. He's prime age for a ruckman, and he has got that DPP status. When he was on a 46 average in the forward line, and then when Grundy went down from round 6, he turned into an average of 84.6, with over 8 scores of 100. So in that solo ruck role, even when he shared it with Cox, and Cox is not getting younger, he has shown his potential. He has shown his good scoring. So, in credit, I love him. Currently, I've swapped out my Nank pick for him at the moment. And yeah, I'll probably swap 1,000 more times, but at the moment I do have DC. He did, like I said, last year he did give me that huge boost in the forward line, so I have a bit of love for him. But yeah, he's gonna be, I think he'll do great things with Collingwood again this year. And although he did finish off the last 3 games pretty poor, I don't think, no, Grundy never came back, but I just think he just didn't get into the games, and we can leave it off because he is still developing. For that age, very high, but giving him his first season as solo ruck, you got to give him some chances. Now, going on to the next one, we have Lloyd Meek, age 24, and he has changed teams to Hawthorn Football Club. He is young, and he is the perfect build for a ruckman at 203 and 109 kilograms. And in season 22, he had a top score of 100 and low score of 78, showing he does have a very good ceiling and a very good floor. When he plays that ruck role, he does generally good. And that was sharing it with Sean Darcy. Unless I'm wrong, I think maybe one round he didn't have to share it and he got like an 80, but other than that, he's young, he's still got lots to learn. And Gawn and Grundy didn't become good till their like 20s. I think Grundy was like 22, 23 when he started hitting his stride, and Gawn, has knee injury after knee injury, and he was not like, he didn't really show his lights till he was about 26, so this is like the perfect age of ruckman to come in the 24 to 27 range. And yeah, he's got that Supercoach friendly role. Now, of course, he's got a huge gamble on his head because he does have a very small sample size. We've only really seen those 6 games this year, so if you're choosing him, you're really taking a punt on him. And most of all, he's got the big question over his head this season. Is he going to get that solo ruck role? Probably unlikely with Ned Reeves there, which is a bit disappointing, but they did pay up for him, and I don't know what their plans are, but I wouldn't start him unless something in the preseason says he is going to get that solo role, but highly unlikely. But yeah, value there if he does come along. Scott Lycett, at the age of 30, his reason for discount was injury. He has averaged 90 plus for 2 seasons, along with his 2019 season where he had an average of 101.4. So he's a genuine proven scorer. He can do it, and he should be the number 1 ruck roll at Port as. Although Finlayson had little stints in there, he was more a bit of X factor. We do have. Just gonna take a quick drink. They do have Teagle and Hayes. Oh, although I have it as a pro, I've also got it as a con. His injury history could put the, could mean in Hinkley's eyes he does need to share the role, but It's a wait and see over pre-season. One, have to watch 400, but for his 429k price tag and his proven history, and he is 30, and we've seen Goldie keeps doing hit outs till he's about what 34 now, 35. So 30 for a Ruckman, although it's starting to enter, there's no more progression in the age, just more retention of his skill. And if he's retained and he's 100 average for 429k, we won't complain. Kind of like Jared Witz as well. But yeah, like I've mentioned here, it's falling out of his prime, but nothing to say he can't hit 100 average like Witzy. Sam Draper. This one's a bit different. It's not injury, it's a breakout. But at the age of 24, he's reaching the prime age to break out for a Ruckman. As I mentioned before, that 24 27 is a sweet spot for Ruckman. They can really get those years going. And the Bombers have really put games into him. They've really backed him in. I think two, 3 years now. He's just been getting that ruck roll. He's maybe had to share it for little stints, but mainly it's just been him. Um, they'd obviously see something in him. I don't see it, but hey, it could be his year, and I do have high hopes for the man. He is a great player. He could be a great player. And it only helps more with the departure of Aaron Francis. He's only got Andrew Phillips there now, who I do not see in any way. I don't see any way he gets into that team, so I think he's got the solo rock roll. And yeah, he has shown he can ton up, and he did have 4 scores in 90. However, as people have owned him and he has had the solo rock roll, he just hasn't been that consistent. He's put out scores of 40 or 50 and just gone completely missing, and I think given away too many free kicks. So can he be viable for Supercoach owners? That's a question we'll have to see over the preseason. Mark Pittonet is age 26 and his one was injury. He is, I think, in Carlton's best 22, and it's Tom DeConnon and him in the team, he definitely has that ruck roll. He's just, we saw he had the best out of all the ruckmen in the comp. He had the most hitouts to advantage, and he does have a good midfield around him with Cripper, Hewitt, and hopefully Walsh later in the season. And also, like I said, 26 prime age for a ruckman. Now, one concerning thing is he didn't post a ton in any of his 8 games of 2022. Although he had all those good, he showed he was getting close, and he nearly looked like he did on a couple of occasions, and there was an injury affected score in there as well. He just couldn't do it, but he has shown he can ton, but that was last season, and he just hasn't, we haven't seen a full 22 games from him yet, just due to injury or fallen victim to being their non-favourite ruck. Now, on to our forwards. The first one we're going to start off with is Nat Fyfe. At the age of 31, he this is not almost like a change. He almost fell victim to role change and injury. He was injured and they put him back in as a forward. Good thing is it has given us this really good price. Even though he played like 7 games last year, he's got this good price because he was full forward for most of the season, for his return of the season. Now, the pros of him, you don't need to know that. I mean, if you don't know the accolades of this man, he's a 2-time Brownlow medalist. He has averaged 100 plus for 6 seasons, 110 for 1 season, and over 120 for 3 seasons. He is a super coach weapon, and he will, if he is back to at least 70% Fife, we will be getting a 95 plus average. So 70% Fife is still better than, majority of the other mid prices. Depends if he can get to that 70%, but we'll wait and see. But he does have that handy DPP status, so we can always swap him around forward or mid. You'd always start him in your forward, but hey, if you need to flick him up to the midfield for like a injury, he does have that opportunity. Now, okay, in JL's lineup, does he get that good forward midfield split? I think he does, because they need a bit of X factor in that midfield, maybe a bit of morale. Andrew Brayshaw's in front of him now. The Caleb Sarong's also in front of him now. But I don't see why they can't give him a 50-50 split in forward and midfield. And even then, a 50-50 split for him gives him that break and rest to keep him hopefully healthy throughout the season. And he still gets that 50% in the midfield where he could just go like, in a click of a finger, he'll just score you like 10 points out of a clearance with a clearance, contested possession, and an effective kick. Now, obviously, the sad news about him, he is entering the twilight of his AFL career with an especially concerning injury history. So, for the accolades of him and for, just generally how good he is, I will be grabbing him, although I will treat it with a grain of salt because he could easily burn me in the first couple of rounds with an injury. But for the caliber of this man, I think it is worth the risk. Terran Thomas, at the age of 22, his one was injury. He does have the DPP status, and he is entering the prime years for midfield. He also clocks in as very specific. I'm pretty sure he wants a younger core for his midfield. He wants to develop him. And yeah, he finished off season 2021 with a very strong showing of a 5 round average of 109. And a lot of people started him for 2022, and he just wasn't his year. Sadly, I'll give him that. It wasn't his year. Now he has suffered from injuries throughout the season 2022, and he was inconsistent with the scoring in the past. And I guess my biggest concern with him is because I'm really pricing him off the fact he gets that midfield role. How I just don't know how he's going to get it a good consistent role with Phillips, LDO, Simpkin, Powell, and now Wardlow in that mix. Unless my currently idea is that it would be LDU, Simpkin, Wardlow, and Phillips. Obviously, North supporters can tell me if it's a little, and then Terran Thomas and then Powell. They can be a bit different in their minds. And then you still have Cunnington as well, who will obviously will start getting chopped out of that, but he will still be there in case they need a bit of morale. So yeah, so one I'm not looking at really at the moment, but he is there, and if once again signs look good over the preseason, hey, I mean I won't shy away from Terran Thomas. I think he can be something great in the future. Oscar Allen, someone I do have in my team at the moment. As we know, in season 2022, there was also another good pick in the forward that really took off, and that was Charlie Curnow. Yeah, 210k, he peaked at nearly 530. And we've seen also Tom Lynch, who, not really mid-price, but I remember he was like 400 grand, and then he got up to 600. And then I remember Taylor Walker about 2 seasons ago was nearly 300k, and then he got to like, remember people cashing him out at like 580 or 600k. Obviously, even though full forward role isn't genuinely a super coach friendly role, in the right, like if you do have that solo forward role and these forwards that do are coming about, or just having a good year, they can score well, and that's why I'm not discounting full forwards this year. I've just learned over the last couple seasons, full forwards can score, but not all of them will consistently. Now for Oscar Allen, at the age of 23, here's his injury and breakout. With he should surely be getting games now with Josh Kennedy's retirement, and he fits the profile for West Coast Eagles and what they need. They need a young forward, full forward, but he's not in that age where they have to develop him. He's 23. He will be entering his prime years for a forward. Like I said, it's a breakout. It's more his injury has given him a cheaper price, but even then he was only like 340k, so it's a slight discount. But you're almost buying him off the back of a breakout year, which I'm pretty optimistic about. And he could get a bit of a ruck role, a bit of a second ruck, but with the absence of Josh Kennedy, I think they need him down there with Jack Darlin. So yeah, Oscar Allen is someone I do have in my team at my moment. Do have him in my team at the moment. So yeah, pretty excited about him. These two share a page because I think they're both fighting over the same thing. We have Josh Tracy and Josh Colbert. Both are now at Fremantle, and both are breakout contenders, with obviously Josh Colbert being traded from Gold Coast to Fremantle. They are both at Fremantle, and with Matt Taberner, Matt Taberner will need a full forward partner, because the absentees of Meek, Logue, and Lob means one of these two will need to step in to help Matt Taberner. Obviously, they have Luke Jackson, and maybe Jaimius gets in there, but most of those are either a third toll up, or even Luke Jackson, he'll be taking some ruck. It's Justin Longmire. It's his game plan, but I think one of these two have to get in there to help Taberner. And choosing between the two, it's a wait and see, because Corbett is in his prime. However, Tracy's had the years to play in those, has had the development in the Fremantle system, so he knows the game style a little bit better than Josh Corbett will. But if they're looking for like a ready-made big body, Josh Corbett is there for him. Once again, for a full forward role, and the question of who does get that second spot. It's a 50-50 between them. We got Toby McLean, probably will be in majority of teams as he is 26, and the reason for a discount was because of his injury. In 2018, he played all 22 with an average of 94.7, and leading up to that bye, he was on an average of 111.1. Now he is in his prime age for that small forward midfield hybrid role, and he does fit right into the hole that Dunkley has left behind. Now my one concern is the difference between a couple of years ago now is that they do have Trelaw and they do have Bailey Smith, so it's not as safe as we would like, but for that 179k price tag, which is obviously cheap, and he's got that DPP status, I think that's a risk we're willing to take. Now, in the last 3 seasons, he has only had 15 games just due to injury, so once again, he's cheap, and I'll take that gamble at his price tag and his potential. And my little bitterness is he does have the Western Bulldog jumper on. Luke Beveridge, you can't really trust him with much nowadays. Even with the, all these new forwards in, I could still see Bond just getting that stupid forward role. Like, obviously that's a small bias and bitter, but Luke Beveridge has screwed around with the magnets throughout the years, so tread carefully with him, but very small minor con about him, and yeah, just a very, very little bias comment. But yeah, Toby McLean, I'll have him in my team this year. 179k, worth the gamble. Ben King, it's going to sound crazy, but out of Nat Fife, Oscar Allen, Toby McLean, and Ben King, I've managed to squeeze them all in my side currently. He is not another full forward at 22, and he's coming back from an injury, and I expect a breakout from him. He was only, I think he's maxed out at like 310k before, but as you can see, he's only at the age of 21, and in his third season, he managed to kick 47 goals. 47 at the age of 21 in his third season. This is when he was by himself and in a less a less than optimal Gold Coast. At Gold Coast now, it features a better midfield, giving him more opportunities. And even now, he has Chola's support, so he's not going to be getting that one defender then a roll off straight onto him, because someone now has to be accountable for Chol. So yeah, all signs for me for Ben King point upwards. He is going to get a better opportunity this year. He is starting to get into his little bit of a prime age. 22 still on the younger side for a forward, but every year he goes up, he's just going to get better. And yeah, he will play all 22 for Ben King as long as he's healthy, because he is their future. Now, full forward once again, but I think his situation's a bit different. You're obviously paying for breakout, and at 176k, that's cheap, cheap, cheap. We saw it with Charlie Curnow, can make a good couple bucks. Now, I guess one thing I want to see in the preseason, has his ACL, like, is he going to be, not leading up as much? Is he going to just kind of just sit in that pocket? I want him to be a dangerous forward, but if he's kind of holding back, it'll be a bit upsetting. But that's just a small preseason watch, but I think all signs for me personally point up for Ben King. The honourable mentions, Toby Green. Does he get that midfield role with Tim Taranto and Hopper gone? Like I said with Whitfield, uh, maybe, maybe not, but that's why he's in the honourable mentions. It can be something special, but if he does get that midfield role, maybe look at him as a cheaper option compared to Rosie, but he has to show some really good signs. Ben Cunnington, have to put him on here. Great to see him back in the AFL. He is a gun, and I would love to start him, but I think just with the new coach of ours at Clarkson, he might get pushed out from the younger ones. Could easily still just, sit on the interchange or sit forward and still get a little bit of midfield minutes, but I think he's just fallen out of favour sadly, but he can sit here because you can justify the pick of him. He is a Supercoach weapon, but yeah, big wait and see. Sam Flanders, can he take the next step this year? He's more of a breakout pick. Can he take the next step as at the Gold Coast? I don't know. He's got Elijah Hollands to contend against. Gold Coast have also brought in Jed Anderson. I don't know what they're doing with all those players, especially with such an already impressive midfield core with Took Miller, Matt Rao, Noah Anderson. So wait and see for him. He's an honourable mentions, but yeah, he could be someone if he does show good signs over pre-season. And lastly, Orazio Fantasia. Can this man get on the park? He has shown good scoring in the past, but he's under huge injury concerns. I wouldn't start him unless he's got that, of course, January, February, March perfect run. But wait and see for him, and yeah. So that's the mid prizes for this year. I hope it all goes well, and obviously any feedback would be appreciated. And I hope this video helped out with choosing your mid prizes this year. If there's anyone I missed, please be free to chuck it down below. And if there's any feedback, this is the second video. If there's any feedback, please just tell me, and I'll try and improve upon it upon each video. Thank you and goodbye. Stack out.